Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I'm recently back from a 5-day holiday in Berlin and I brought my camera and I wanted to edit my photos, but I didn't want to wait until I came home and have 200 photos and needed editing. In this video I'm going to be showing you how I import, edit and share photos from Lightroom on my iPad and a few, we'll call them quirks of this setup. First things first, let's look at the iPad itself. It is my 2020 iPad, so that is the 8th generation, and it's the most basic model. So we have only 3 GB of RAM and 32 GB of storage, because when I bought it, I was a bit of a cheapskate. This means essentially if you want to use this model, you're going to need cloud storage. But if you already have a Lightroom subscription, you already have a bit of cloud storage anyway. Additionally, it also has a front and back camera. They're not great. I mean, you can certainly use them for a video call or taking a picture of a document if really needed. But put it this way, I don't think you're going to be taking photos on the iPad and then using the tips in this video to edit them on the iPad. Overall, it's a pretty bare bones iPad. I didn't buy it for photo editing. I actually bought it for reading books and comics and a bit of writing, drawing, but I thought I'd bring it with me to Berlin because traveling with a laptop can be pretty stressful, particularly when you get an airport worker who, you know, there's just, does it go with the bag? Does it go with its own thing? You gotta turn it on. It's a faff and I don't like it. So what do I pair with the iPad? I pair it with a first generation Apple Pencil. I bought this with the iPad so I could draw. I also have this pretty scuffed up folding case. It gives it a bit of protection and it also lets me put it at certain angles on the desk and rest it on the bed for watching movies, that kind of stuff, you know. Before I went to Germany, I picked up one, well I actually picked up several and we'll get into that in a bit, but I picked up one of these. It goes from the Lightning connector to SD and micro SD. So the pencil and case are optional, but you're probably going to want an SD card adapter because while your camera does have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, you can't share the RAW file, you can only share the JPEG through those things. And you're probably going to want to edit your RAW photos. So let's get in the headspace. It's after a long day of walking around a foreign city, you get back to your hotel room, your SD card's full, you're going to go and grab your iPad, import your photos. Let's break down how to do this. So the good news is, it's pretty easy. You're going to want to attach the dongle to the iPad before you put the SD card in the dongle. Then you're going to want to open Lightroom and select this icon on the bottom right of the screen and then from camera device. So hopefully your SD card gets detected and you can just select all your photos or just a few individual ones and you just pick import. It's probably best to arrive at the hotel, instantly import all your photos and then go and I don't know, have a shower, make a cup of tea or something. This will take a while. I like to let them upload to the cloud too, just because I find that, particularly because the iPad only has 32 gigs of storage, that when the photos, it's almost like a buffer, right? So when this fills up, you're waiting for them to upload, and then the iPad is sluggish because the storage is full, and it's just, yeah. Now, before you edit your photos, you might want to sort them. You want to do this after. I'm just going to cover it now because I like to sort them beforehand. I like to use the stars method in Lightroom. Reminds me a bit of the old YouTube stars. But this is pretty easy. You can either use the stars on the bottom of the screen, or you can just swipe up and then choose how many stars you want. And eventually all your photos will be imported and ready to edit. So now it's time to edit your photos, and Adobe's design language is pretty universal. So if you can use Lightroom on your desktop, this is a breeze. It's pretty much all the same stuff here. So this photo is nothing special. It's just a photo I took in the Mall of Berlin. I kind of like the roof structure. First thing I'm going to do is actually crop the image and rotate it so that is level, centered. And I can do a little bit more. Rotate. I probably wasn't stood directly in the center as well. So that's the cropping done. Very handy, very intuitive. I can come here and go to presets. It'll analyze the photo and choose a preset that it thinks will work. So we can have a look at some of those. And you come here at the top, near all of your settings. Let's say I want a warmer preset. And I can choose something like this. Premium is all the premium Lightroom presets, and I can come here to my own presets. And here's one I made for Berlin. Here's one called Cozy. But I think I won't use a preset, and we can actually look at all of the editing tools. So you can choose your profile there. I'm going to stay in Adobe Color. First thing is I'm going to bring up the shadows a little bit.
And maybe down the highlights? No, keep the highlights kind of as they are. And yeah, kind of happy with that pretty basic edit. You can see here I can change the exposure. You can just, I think you can double tap the slider and that will take you back to 0 as well, so that's pretty cool. Go to contrast. I'm kind of liking this flat look of the image so far. You got your whites and blacks, and then for color, you got your white balance here. Got a tint. And here we have vibrance and saturation. So we'll play around with these. Kind of like, I think I like that. You can see the image blurs while I'm making a change, and then it kind of renders again properly with the change made. I can go for black and white as well. Then here we have effects, so this would be your texture, so you can see if I put that to 0 versus full, the effect that makes. I might bring that up a bit just to show off the texture on the ceiling. Clarity. Dehaze is weird because it also affects like the exposure, so I don't like to mess with that much. And vignette, I don't think there's much vignetting in this photo, but you could use some creatively, do something like that. But at that point, just use a radial mask. So that's effects. Detail, we have sharpening and noise reduction and all that kind of stuff. I think we're good for that. Optics would be where if you have chromatic aberration or that kind of thing, you can change that there. You can also, if you have a lens that's compatible, you can go and enable lens-specific corrections. I don't think my Lumix 12-60 is recognized here, so. Then in geometry, you can do this, so you can change the like perspective of the image a bit. It's kind of cool. In color, then, if we're more in depth, you can go color mixing. So these are your like HSL sliders kind of thing. And you can go individual colors, or you can tap this here, and then, so yeah, that's that. Here's a photo I took of just some stairs. So I'm going to demonstrate the healing brush here. So first thing I'm going to do is actually just crop this a little bit. To I think something like this. Yeah, I kind of like that. But you can see just there in the corner, so if I zoom in real close, we have some of that branch still there. And I could crop it more, but I think what I'm going to do is just go over to our plaster here. I've got the remove brush, and come in with my Apple Pencil, and that's gone. A little bit of a mark there. And probably even get rid of those shadows as well. And that's just very handy to do with the Apple Pencil.
And just not really an editing thing, but the advantage that I find with this is it takes what is normally for me a process of sitting at my desk and just kind of staring at a screen into something that feels more creative. Being able to just sit back in a chair and hold the iPad like it's a sketch pad with the pencil in my hand to edit really does make editing feel more of a creative part of the process, as opposed to, oh, I need to edit my photos so I can publish them. It really does feel like it's turning editing into part of the process. So the reason I brought my iPad with me was so that I could edit and share on the holiday, basically. So I wouldn't have to wait till I get home and then blah, 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 blah. I like to add a white border to my photos so that when I put them on Instagram, if I have a combination of vertical and horizontal photos, they're not going to get cropped weirdly. And I think it makes them stand out a bit more. That's pretty easy to do here. You just have to go add border and share. And then it will like export your photo, and then you can choose where you want it. So I always save to files. And then what I do in files, which is just the file browser on iPad, is I make a folder with the specific day or specific theme or specific post and put everything there. Now we'll get into that in a bit. But then I like to post them on Instagram. That would be my main place for sharing photos. But the thing is Instagram doesn't have an iPad app. Okay, well it does have an iPad app, but it is actually the iOS app on the iPad. And it's just stretched and it's horrible. Don't use it, just use the website. It's so much easier. Okay, so there's a few things I said I'd get into, and let's get into them. Importing is slow. So the Lightning connector is essentially USB 2.0. It has a max transfer speed of 480 megabits per second. Now, this is a third-party adapter, and I don't think it's even taking full advantage of that. Whereas a USB 3.2 Gen 1 or Gen 2, yes, the USB naming standards are fairly annoying. But a USB 3.2 Gen 1 or Gen 2 is going to get you anywhere from 5 gigabits per second to 20 gigabits per second, so just so much faster. And in all the promotional documents for the new iPad Pros, iPad Airs, That's the selling point for Apple, is that you can just plug an SSD into this, and it's so fast and it can take advantage of those fast speeds. Lightning is not a good connector for transferring files. And on the topic of these SD card readers, this one's pretty good. It was like maybe €15, but I got another one that was also about €15. It was a white one like this, and it just did not work. It did not register on my iPad, my girlfriend's iPad, or her iPhone. It would just not work with any SD card I put in it. I suppose that's just the joy of buying third party, but I don't want to pay... How much do Apple charge for their one? Yeah, I'm not paying that for a thing that takes like some terminals and turns them into a few pins. And iPadOS isn't great. And I feel like this is most evident when I'm exporting a photo. So let's say I have day 2 and I want to take all the photos from there and export them to day 2. So I'll take photo 1, export, and it'll throw me into iCloud Drive. Not a problem, I navigate to day 2, save, move on. I'm still in iCloud Drive, okay. And this continues for about 4 or 5 photos until eventually it determines, oh, he wants to save them all to day 2. So I do. And then tomorrow I put them in day 3, and it opens by default to day 2. Just a quirk of the system, you get used to it, I guess. Yeah. So what are my final thoughts? Well, overall, I really enjoyed using the iPad to edit. And like I said before, just the ergonomics of this make it seem more relaxing and make the editing seem like much more of a creative process. It made viewing my composition and just actually viewing my edits seem more tangible, because I could hold it up in front of me, I could move it around almost like a print. Whereas if you're editing on your desktop, you're seeing it as a section within an application, within a window, within a display. And it feels like there's a lot of layers there that are removing you from actually looking at your photo. If I were starting out with photography today, would I recommend an iPad over a laptop? Probably not, because most people have a computer of some kind. I know some photography YouTubers do use the iPad as like their main editing machine, and they swear by them, mainly the iPad Pro, and that would definitely alleviate my problems with transfer speed. But this iPad from like 3 years ago really handled itself pretty well. Lightroom didn't crash or freeze, it did stutter a little bit, it slowed down a bit as the storage got full. For reading books, watching movies on plane, and just like in the bed in the hotel room at the end of the night, rather than watching the German TV, I thought it was pretty brilliant. So what do you think? Could an iPad find a place in your workflow? Could you see yourself editing on an iPad, or is it just a bit of a fad? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thanks for watching.